Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we checked out the brand new releases from SCHWARZER ENGEL, Infected Rain, and NECROPHAGOUS. Well, first off, Happy New Year guys, welcome back. This is our first video of the new year, and yeah, we checked out a few albums that dropped today. NECROPHAGOUS, not to be confused with NECROPHAGIST. Two different bands. NECROPHAGOUS is a brand new band. They just put out, this is their first album. It's called In Chaos Ascend. Infected Rain, been around for a while. Ecdysis. And SCHWARZER ENGEL, who I've never heard of before, but we did check them out. Well, you guys checked them out. With Sieben. Right? So I guess start off because I didn't get a chance to listen to SCHWARZER ENGEL, so you can tell us, what does SCHWARZER ENGEL sound like?
So, picture this. Rammstein.
That's it?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Now, I will admit, when this album started, I was actually quite interested because it sounded like it had the general Rammstein sound, but it was a lot more electronic, a lot more synthesizer, a lot more of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is a really interesting kind of spin on a sound that I've heard before. And I thought that was cool for a few tracks. And then it got to a point where that just went away and it just sounded like Rammstein. That was it. And I'm like, you know what? I like Rammstein a lot.
I like Rammstein.
Fantastic band.
Yeah.
And I like the sound. So by default, I was enjoying the album just because it had that sound. But I kept thinking to myself, this just sounds like a Rammstein album. Like, what makes this original?
Now, did the singer sound like Till?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to a degree, I could kind of see the similarity there, too. So, you know, there were a few tracks that I liked, like, I might mess this up, Ewig Leben and Schlitzer. Those two tracks I liked, but yeah, I mean there were you know, those few songs, maybe a few others that kind of gripped me riff-wise, because I know Rammstein's big on the riffs. This band obviously sounding similar, big on the riffs too, and there were some songs where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a strong riff here and there. But yeah, the kind of issue I had is that they sounded a little too similar to Rammstein, even though it started out kind of like in an original sense, it kind of fell apart a little bit near the end in that regard. But overall, still good. Like, it's not, if you like Rammstein, you'll like this straight up. If you like what that band sounds like, you'll like what this band sounds like because they're similar.
I think I'll definitely check it out just based on that alone, because I do love Rammstein. So, yeah. What about the other two?
Well, I mean, I know you gave a little bit more focus to NECROPHAGOUS, but I guess I'll mention just a little bit that I know. I didn't really get too much of a focus listen onto it. But it overall, to me, kind of felt like a straightforward death metal kind of thing. But I was kind of getting a few vibes of death, like the band of Death. In a few of the songs, a few more technical parts. I'm like, oh, this sounds like something Death would do, and I like that. I like that that's mixed in with more straightforward traditional death metal. I thought that was pretty cool. There were a few highlight tracks I was able to kind of note. Those two songs being At Dawn the Immolate and The Plague and The Arts. Both those songs, I'm like, we had moments where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. I'll take note of that one, maybe to check out later, or what have you.
Yeah, I listened to the album a few times. Sadly, I wasn't paying too much attention to the track names, so I don't really have any track references of what songs I liked and didn't like. There was definitely some highlights. This band's from Sweden. You can definitely hear that element. They sound to me like maybe closer to like something like Entombed, which they're Swedish, but they also kind of reminded me of like Vader, and I'm drawing a blank of where Vader's from, Poland, I think. But either way, it had that vibe to me. The death comparison's interesting. I didn't notice that, but it's interesting, and I'm anxious to listen to it again to find that, because that's a cool comparison right there. But this band, yeah, it feels pretty straightforward. Nothing was mind-blowing. There wasn't anything that was really unique to stand out and make me go, wow, this is a standout album. Granted, I only heard it a couple times, and it wasn't really a super focused listen. So, do I think there's some hidden gems in there? Yeah, I do. Do I also think that if we were to choose this album to review all week, would it get boring throughout the week? Potentially, yes. Right? So it's kind of really on that fence. It's really on that line of this could be amazing, or it could be just a pretty good album. Infected Rain. Ecdysis. I was pretty hyped for this album, not gonna lie. So Infected Rain's a band. They've been around for a while. We've checked them out before, but I've never really listened to an album, right? So leading up to this week, because I knew they had this album coming out, I knew we were going to check it out, I listened to a couple other previous albums and couldn't make it through. I was like, this band's just not doing it for me. So it kind of like lowered my hype for this new album. So the new album comes out, put it on, listened to it today, a few times. There's some good stuff here, some good stuff there. But there was also some stuff that was annoying me, some stuff that was bugging me a bit. Mainly due to the vocals. Unfortunately, I just find them very yelly. And that bugs me. It didn't feel like there was a lot of real vocal technique in there. Could be wrong, maybe I'm an idiot, but it didn't sound good to my ear a lot of the time. And I was putting a bit of a stain on my overall opinion of the album.
I feel like her voice, to a degree, might be a little bit of an acquired taste, because it's not like a regular kind of harsh vocal. I wouldn't say it's like among the most common. I don't know if yelly might be the best word to describe it, but it's very screamy, and there's not much going on in terms of screaming. Well, I guess that's not really. That doesn't. In the metal context, I feel like that's a lot more nuanced than if just hearing that out of context.
It's true. I get what you're saying.
And so I feel like it's on the more of like a regular kind of metal scream side as opposed to kind of just yelly.
Yeah.
But there's not much in terms of growling. You don't really get much of that at all. And I feel like that might be a little bit of the downfall with the harsh vocals, is that they are kind of consistent. Mm-hmm. At some points in this album, I did hear it and think, holy shit, that was a good scream. But I'm wondering, like, well, a lot of the screaming kind of sounds very similar to itself, so what happened? Like, what made those moments better than others? I'm not entirely sure. And the clean vocals, I think, have some really, really good harmonies, which, I mean, you know, a lot of singers, such as this one, will have really good layering anyway, you know?
What about musically, though? Because musically, instrumentally, listening to it, I found that there was a lot of stuff going on, but there wasn't a lot of stuff going on that made me say, wow. But again, I'm not trying to knock it, it's just, you gotta really focus on things to appreciate them sometimes, and I wasn't, so I have to put that out. I have to mention that, because it's not fair for me to say, oh, there was nothing interesting. I just didn't notice anything. And there's a big difference there, and we have to discern that difference. But there were some things, like there's some syncopated sections, there's some progressive elements there, there's different, I'm hearing like some gentiness, some new metal type of vibes, you know, there's a lot of things in there. So it's not like this one straightforward type of thing. So, how did you feel about it instrumentally?
Listening to this album, I kind of noticed it's one of those like riff-centric albums. I find there are albums that like you really know best for their riffs, and that's kind of what I was noticing here. I found some songs were like, oh yeah, this has a cool groove here, this has something cool here, but I was also noticing like a lot of stuff is going in different directions, and that was pretty cool. And I think one of the biggest examples, which kind of has a downfall in that regard, is Everlasting Lethargy, which starts out and is probably the most aggressive, craziest song on the album. It is balls to the wall. The screams sound the best they do, but then it kind of stops and turns into a completely different song, gets all quiet, and then it turns into another different song and it's kind of just chill. And I thought to myself, this really feels like 3 songs just kind of stitched together, which, I mean, I kind of wish there was more development for that first idea, but it kind of just switches off into something very different and then switches off into a completely different thing. So I kind of felt like it was disjunct that way. However, I only listened to this album one time. It was a somewhat focused listen, but, you know, after one time, like, you know, it's like any of the first impressions that we used to do. Like, I'd have to hear it more. Perhaps I'd like it even more after such, you know?
Yeah, so I think based on the mere fact that it feels like there's a lot of stuff to still unpack with this Infected Rain album, I think it's the one we're going to do.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to review Ecdysis for the week.
It's the kind of album that could totally, like, we can both tell there's a lot happening here. Yeah. And by the end of the week, our opinions could be different. Who knows? We could both love it. We could both hate it. We don't know until it happens.
Exactly. So, I think you guys should still check out the album from SCHWARZER ENGEL and NECROPHAGOUS, because they're both pretty solid albums still. But we're gonna check out Infected Rain. You guys should check out Infected Rain's new album. Let us know in the comments down below what you guys think after your first impressions of hearing it. That's it for this video, guys. So leave a like if you liked our video. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. We'll see you guys in the next one. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
Later.